Now, this was a class in psychology and theology. So we're all looking around thinking, what does this have to do with psychology and theology? I didn't know her name. I had seen her, passed her in the corridor. I knew who he was talking about. Nice woman, but never stopped to spend any time with her or learn anything about her. So I left it blank. The following Monday, he comes in, and on everyone's paper, now there were about 30 of us in the class, no one knew her. So there's a big red F in the center of the paper.
Everybody failed.
Everybody failed. So I thought, well, I'm not, this is really confusing to me. I'm going to raise my hand and ask why he did this. So I raised my hand and I said, you know, I'm not quite sure what knowing the first name of the woman who cleans our school has to do with psychology or theology. Wrong question to ask the professor. He sat back in his chair. He folded his arms across his chest. Didn't say anything for about 30 seconds. It was like the longest 30 seconds of my life. And his eyes panned the room and he said, you know, he said, I think I have some pretty bright people in here. He said, I think you'll probably be good as a marriage and family therapist. He said, but you missed the main lesson. He said, you're missing the main lesson of life. And he said, the main purpose of life from my perspective is not to acquire things or to find out how much you know or how smart you are, but the real purpose in life is to know people, to engage people, and to uplift people. And I was mortified. So never forget that. It's very emotional for me.
It moves me as well. And you did find out who this woman was.
Mm.
Tell us about her.
She was a woman who had 5 children and cleaned her school.
She was widowed, wasn't she? Mm-hmm. Supporting 5 kids.
Yeah.
And you would see her every day?
Saw her every day, and passed her, and when she died of cancer some years later, went to her funeral and, you know, told her children what an impact she had.
Wow. Well, she's left a legacy to all of us about relationships. And I'm sure that's a big part of the American Family Foundation.
It is, yeah. We try to strengthen
of.
children and families and do whatever we can program-wise to make that happen. And you know, it's a great life to be able to do that and to have that ministry.
Now, before I ever read the content of the book, and I don't usually do this, Tom, but I thought, I was trying to figure out where you were from, because you were actually born in New York.
Yes.
So I thought, well, they usually have something about the author at the back.
No.
Here's what I read. About the author. Tom McQueen died shortly after he was born. Apparently, God wasn't expecting such a quick trip home, so he returned Tom to his parents, Joe and Marie McQueen.
That's right.
I'm guessing you're a miracle.
That's what my mother tells me, and my mom's still alive, and she lives in Utica, New York still, but I did die when I was born, and it was a, you know, I didn't realize it obviously, but she told me about it afterwards, and you know, it was quite a lengthy period of time, and so I consider my every day a gift and every day a blessing, because just to be here, and you know, it is a miracle. Life is really a miracle. So,
Tom, you're a man of faith, and that's a big part of what your legacy represents here, instilling a faith perspective, God at the center. What do you think the biggest challenge is for this generation coming up, for Ethan and those just ahead of him?
Well, the biggest challenge, you know, I talk about in the last chapter of my book. I met a woman who had a child who was going to be born, and he was born at a very premature age, and the doctor said he wouldn't live long, that he was, you know, going to die probably before the night was over. And of course now he's 15 years old, and you know, he's a miracle, and miracles happen. And I think the greatest challenge for young people today is to realize that life is not just a life meant to exist. You know, life is meant to be lived, and to realize that God gave us 3 really important gifts. He gave us our intellect, He gave us our emotions, and He gave us our will. And He wants to use us to use those 3 gifts to make miracles happen. I give talks all over the country in churches, you know, and the first question I ask when I go out into a church is, there'll be a group of people, and I'll say, if you've ever seen a miracle, raise your hand. And I can't tell you the number of people, I never see a hand raised. I might see 1 or 2. And then I'll start talking about birth and life and things that happen. And then more people raise their hands, you know, because we don't really see miracles happening every day, and we don't really realize that God gifts us with the tools to make miracles happen, not in the same way that He did, of course, but to make someone's life better, to make someone be able to smile or to deal with an issue. That can be a miracle. And that's our vocation and our responsibility, I believe, as parents and grandparents.
You talked about just the joy of being grandpa. I love that you say that Ethan was a gift in reminding you of Jesus' words, unless you become like a little child, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven.
Exactly, and he also, the companion quote to that one is, be careful what you do with children, because anybody who harms a child, it's like having a millstone hung around their neck, and it would be better to have them thrown into the sea. So there's that gift that we have, but also that responsibility to take the lives of children and to use our vocation as parents and grandparents to help them grow and develop into the gifts that, God's given to them.
And not to lose the wonder.
And not to lose the wonder of the magic. And I follow Ethan and Kaylin around, and it's amazing. I mean, to see life again from a child's perspective, there's nothing like it. They have that sense of wonder, they have that sense of magic, they have that sense of, being inquisitive about life and wanting to engage people. I mean, Ethan runs through the mall, he waves at everybody. How often do you see an adult, pass you by in the mall and take the time to say hello to you or meet you? And it goes back to that story about write down the first name of the woman who cleans our school. Take the time to know people and engage people. And that's what children teach us. That's what Jesus did when he walked on this earth. It's amazing when you read Scripture, the number of times that Jesus said, "What can I do for you?" or "How can I help you?" I never realized that till somebody asked me to go back and reread the life of Christ and find out how many times he said that. What can I do for you? How can I help you? What a life that would be, just to go around and ask that question and to respond that way by helping people and assisting them.
I've shared this before, but one of the most moving serendipities, really an epiphany, was when a sister in a convent in Toronto, following communion, asked me, she just made this statement, "What would you like Jesus to do for you?" And that was so disarming. She didn't say, "How would you like me to pray for you?" She said, "What would you like Jesus to do for you?" Really reflects his desire to meet us at our point of need.
Absolutely, and God made it pretty simple. There's a great poem I use. It's really short. It goes like this. God said, "Let's build a better world." And I said, "How? The world's such a cold, dark place and so complicated now. And I'm so afraid that there's nothing I can do." And God, in all his wisdom, said, "Just build a better you." And I thought, what great advice that is for everyone.
And that's in here. It's just part of the goodie package. Letters to Ethan, available
On Amazon.
On Amazon.
Or from our website.
I love the closing. So my prayer for you, Ethan, is that you will always embrace and celebrate life as a miracle, knowing that you have already been a miracle to me. I love you, Ethan, Grandpa. Well, I hope you've been encouraged to pick up a pen. And don't even think book. Just think, what do I know about conflict? What do I remember about Christmas? What do I want to say about integrity? Have you got a personal experience, a favorite quote or a poem? That's how it can start for you. Wow, I'm just thinking of a potential result here. And maybe you need encouragement today. Just a reminder, our prayer lines are always available. Maybe it's prayer for you, maybe it's prayer for a grandchild that you need today.